I'm really happy. I'm not sure if it's your assistant. Someone reached out to me. It was like, "Hey, take a look at Abby. I think she'd be really good for your podcast." And I'm reading this. I'm like, "Yep, she'll be great. She'll be really good."
Oh,
Because
amazing. That was probably someone from Interview Connections.
okay, yeah, there's no question you'll be really good. And I've listened to some of your podcasts, did some research. I was like, "All right, this is information that everybody needs to have." Including myself. I'm almost
Okay.
ashamed to admit this. I married the right person because she's a benefits manager. She specializes almost in kind of what you do. You two can speak the same language. I was very tempted to have her on the podcast sitting next to me because you two can just jive and completely get it. But I said, you know what? My lack of knowledge in this area is going to lead, I think, to more benefits because I'm going to ask you questions that a lot of people probably have.
Okay.
And so I'm really excited for this. You're going to be
I'm
the
too. I'm
master.
excited too.
Yeah, you're the master. I'm the student. And I'm ready to learn. And I think a
All
lot of
right,
people are
let's
ready
do it.
ready to learn today. So Abby, real quick, can you break down just in a few sentences what you do currently?
You mean with my clients?
Yeah, like for your career.
Oh my gosh. Well, I help people navigate their accumulation, distribution, and preservation phases of their life
Yeah,
financially.
yeah.
But also not just financially though, emotionally too, I think. Right? Because people, I mean, I've been in this business for over 30 years, so I've grown up with people. So, you meet people when they're just starting out in their careers and they're emerging affluent. And then my goal is to build relationships that matter, right?
Mm,
And in order to do that, you build relationships that matter and
right.
you get interested in people's lives. And I think when you develop that interest, like deep personal interest in someone else, you want to make sure that you've got their back, right? And I think that's what I do well, because I do. I have people's backs
I
with
think that's
their planning.
that's a huge in my book, that's a huge pro to have like a financial advisor or someone that gives you financial advice that actually cares about you as a person. From your perspective, I question if that's really good because it's like I'm thinking if I'm like a nurse or something like that and I really care about my patients and then like something happens to them or whatever, like how invested you are in people. That has to be really hard for you too, right? Like you really care because I've listened to some of your podcasts recently, I've done some research on it. That's what sets you apart. I'm gathering that is that you actually care about these people. It's not just a bottom line. It's not you just making money, which I would imagine is most financial advisors these days. That's got to be hard too, is really kind of having a stake in people's lives and how they do financially and how well they do for themselves, which I think is absolutely wonderful. But that's got to be hard for you too, right? Does that bring a lot of stress home?
No, no, it brings a lot of passion home.
Great.
It's stress and passion are two different things. Uh, no, I'm very passionate about making sure that everything is done right, that there's no mistakes, that I've covered everything, that and if something goes wrong, like the worst case scenario, somebody dies, right?
Yeah.
Or becomes
Hmm.
disabled or loses their jobs, or 2008, they lose their entire portfolio. I mean, like these are things, right? And this is about understanding how people feel, validating their feelings, and coming up with a solution that works.
Mm.
That's what it's about.
Is it fair to say that the vast majority of people don't really understand money and what to do with it and how to manage it and how to set it up for success? Is that fair to say?
I do think it's fair to say less than 1% are high net worth, right?
What do you
But
consider high net worth? What do you consider that? Like a billionaire?
no, no. High net worth is 5 million and up,
Okay. Oh wow.
10 million and up, 5, 10, 20. I mean, that's high net worth. 10, 20. I would say 10, 20 million is high
Okay.
net worth. Then you get into the 40 and 50. But the point is that you want to make sure that you're doing right by the client and you're growing with them. And at the end of the day, these people that are very high net worth, it's interesting to me. In the beginning of my career, when I was growing with these people that are now high net worth, I think I'm switching the topic now. Um, they were making a certain amount of money and they were creating their families and they were doing, and there was a lot of stress involved, right? Because the topic about money, it's so interesting to me because nobody really talks about it. And so there's an enormous amount of stress in the beginning years with high net worth clients because they're high achievers, so they're working their butts off. And there's a lot of stress, I would assume, with their relationships and the time that they're spending at work, et cetera. I mean, it can kick your butt. And there's a level of stress that is very apparent when I used to meet with with my clients in that era of their financial lives. And we would have deep conversations about money. Like, are you talking about the stress? Are you talking about it at home? Are you talking about it at the dinner table? Are you talking to your children about this? Are you like, what's happening? And I'm more interested in those kinds of conversations. It's not just about product and this and that. I'm more interested in what's going on with you,
Mm.
with your family, emotionally. What happened? How were you raised growing up with money? Tell me about the comfortableness of talking about that whole thing. So I kind of navigate that whole phase, right? And I try to get people to have dinner with their children and talk to their spouses. And I I think I teach my clients to seek to understand before they're being understood.
Mm.
So when they reach the high net worth bracket, there's an ease about them because they're not so stressed,
Mm.
right? But then it shifts to other kinds of problems. Like, do you have a distribution plan? Do you have a preservation plan? What do you mean? It's more dangerous taking money out during retirement than it was when you were earning it because you're subject to all the risks still, the systematic risk that we have in our world, market risk, interest rate risk,
Hmm.
inflation, all of these risks you can't really diversify away from. So it's hard to take money out in a down market. Where do I take money out, right? It could decimate your assets. So it's important to discuss all of these steps with regard to taking money out when there's no new money going in. And that's what makes it more dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's really important to discuss distribution planning, and it's really important to discuss preservation planning because the IRS takes half of your money while you're alive and they take it half when you're dead. So it's really important to protect those assets for the next generation. Now, to your point, the money conversation. How do you talk to your kids about the money? I think it is uber important to discuss it early and often because children need to be comfortable budgeting, spending, investing, giving away, and they it needs to carry on. Like the values have to carry on because I gotta tell you, most divorce happens because of money.
Hmm.
It's such a big issue. So I think it's really important to face it head on, early and often. I'll say it again, early and often. Because the more comfortable you are, it's like being comfortable in your own skin. It's the same thing. You need to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to be comfortable talking about money to your spouse, to your children, because it doesn't grow on trees and it's really hard to make. And if you haven't if you don't have it the old-fashioned way where you inherited it, and by the way, that is the biggest issue is inheriting money and not having those values instilled in you early on. I can't tell you how many generations lose the money where it stops. And it's often in Gen 2, if
Hmm.
not Gen 2, Gen 3. So it's really, really important to discuss it and discuss how to use it and spend it and save it and invest it and give it away.
Hmm. It is to me mind-boggling of all the couples that are together that just don't discuss.
No, they don't.
It's a major pillar of every relationship is finances. Whether you have it or not, you have to figure it out and live with your means. And fortunately, I don't know, maybe it's because I got married later, or I don't know, maybe I just knew to ask the questions earlier in the whole dating experience. It was kind of like not necessarily like how much do you make, all that kind of stuff, but it's more just talking about money and like learning how they value money and learning like how responsible they are. And let's say, for instance, if you were to get $1,000, what would you do with it?
Mm.
I'm not, not a question I would ask, but I'm saying like it gives you kind of insight. Is it like, hey, I'd go to the casino, or I would invest this, or I would go take a trip, or it really kind of gives you some insight on how people value money, what they think about it. It really is mind blowing to me. I'm so happy that I don't fall within that small percentage of people that are happy to talk about or that are scared to talk about money. I'm happy to talk about it with my wife. We have a conversation. I would say almost. I don't want to say almost daily, but almost daily. Kind of like, hey, how are we doing with this? How are we doing with this? We have savings accounts with different buckets, things we save for, certain percentages and ratios go into different things. We have it all. We have a system figured out, and then once it's figured out, it's kind of like hands off. Just double check, make sure everything's going okay every few months. But yes, we have now thrown a kid into the situation 8 months ago. So I look
Oh,
forward.
congratulations.
Thank you. I know your kids are a little older, so you're way ahead of the game
They're a lot older.
as far as me. Um, but yeah, it really is. It's mind blowing that people don't have these conversations about money and how scared they are. I want to ask you, why is that? Is it because they don't have it? Is it because maybe those conversations just were had with them, so they're not comfortable having it with other people? What's the common thread there?
That's a lot. I think number one, it's how they were raised and what their experience was with their parents
Yeah,
with money. I mean, excuse me, I have to pick up my dog. He's
yeah, of
bugging me.
course.
It's, I think it's how they were raised. I think that's the root cause of the problem. I think it absolutely stems from them because it's interesting. You just brought something up that's very interesting. It's like not having enough. That's lifestyle creep.
Hmm,
Lifestyle creep is real. And people buy things they can't afford. They use credit when they shouldn't. And it's a thing, right? And I think if you're not budgeting, if you're not careful, if you're not seeking out the best deals with credit cards and things like that, like these are things that you need to learn growing up.
hmm,
That you, as a new parent, as a new father, you have carte blanche right now to make sure that your kid is fiscally responsible, values the dollar, and understands um, saving and investing and giving away and spending.
hmm,
You have carte blanche. The earlier you talk about it, the better. And it's really just it's about being comfortable, right? I remember when my kids were in the high chairs, and I remember going to a diner, and the sugar packets were on the table, and we would do math, like we were teaching math, but at the same time we were not just teaching math, but we were teaching dollars and cents, right? We would take out the pennies and the nickels and the dimes and the quarters, and we would talk to our little babies about how much each is worth and what it buys. It's as early as that.
hmm.
And it's a fun little exercise to do versus handing your kid a phone and not talking to them. That drives me crazy.
Oh, me too. Never. Nope.
Thank
Not
you.
happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nope.
It actually drives my children crazy too to see it. So it you have when you're in a car, when you're out having, eating at a restaurant, when you have um uh, that kind of time with your kid, your time capsule is what I'm looking for. That's your time capsule where you have undivided attention with your children and you can have fun with it and be engaged with it. And what it also teaches you also understand that ages 0 to 5 is when the brain develops the most, right? So if you're a lot of people concentrating on, having their kids read early or this what, but if you're sitting there talking to them about these little math problems and these savings and experiences that you're out to lunch and you're counting the sugar packets and you're asking what you get the bill and you go over the bill with them and you talk about the tip and you talk about how all of it, it's a time capsule
Hmm.
and they'll never forget it. And it gives them that space to be comfortable. And then the next time you go out and the older that they get, it's going to be more advanced. So the conversations that I'm having right now with my adult children are really, it's about the markets and it's about inflation and it's about interest rates and about all of it. And we talk about it. And sometimes I ask them for advice. Sometimes they ask me for advice. So it's kind of cool because you have that built-in relationship that is not just about love, but it's about understanding and understanding that money doesn't buy love, but understanding how that money works and what it does and how it can affect people is a really big lesson to teach your children.
Oh yeah. It's so valuable. That information is so valuable. I
Yeah.
wish more people knew it. Even half of what you know would go so far. I
Mm.
can't wait in this conversation. We're talking about kids now. We're gonna stay on here, but I can't wait till we start talking about parents.
Okay.
We're gonna get there
That's a
because I
whole other ball of wax.
oh it is. And yeah, that ball of wax, I don't quite understand, and I'm gonna have you help me peel that back just a little bit.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I agree with so much of what you said. Obviously, like I said, so much of that is down the road for me. I have a vision of how these things are gonna play out and how I'm gonna talk to him about things and stuff. I already started a custodial account for him like a month after he was born and got his social security. I was like, all right, he's not going to know it exists. He's going to have no clue he's got a bank account for a while. I'm going to make him create his own. I'm curious about this. So I have set up a 529 and I've also set up just a custodial, what's the word I'm thinking of? Brokerage account for him.
Custodial account. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I want compound interest to start as early as humanly possible for him.
Mhm.
Do you see an advantage in any of those two different accounts? I know 529 is more for education. But then again, I don't know what the hell college is going to look like in, 18 years or whatever, if he's even going to go to school. Whereas like I just want compound interest to kind of work for him and I don't want to put a cap on anything he's able to accumulate. And when he becomes, I don't know, preteen, teenager, I want to teach him about compound interest and have him add to it and grow to his account. I was just genuinely curious because I have yet to really start dabbling with a 529 or the brokerage account. Did you take any of those paths or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we set up 529s for our children. I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
I didn't believe though in putting all my eggs in one basket though, because to your point, what if they don't go to college? Like the 529s are specifically designed for education. Now um, you can certainly pass that to the next generation. The
Hmm.
529s, you can do that. So if, for whatever reason your children don't use the account, you can pass it to your grandkids. When my
See, I
children
would say give it back. If you're not using it, I'm going to take a trip around the world. Give it back. I'm
Well, you
just
have
kidding.
to use it for education. That's the
Yeah, I
thing.
know. That's the thing. Yep.
That's the thing. So, having said that, though, a lot of my clients have gotten involved with whole life insurance for their children. And I know that sounds really off in a way, like, oh, life insurance for my children? Like, no. But here's the thing. I've never seen an application that said, do you like life insurance?
Hmm.
But people like what it does. And here's what it does for kids. And it's called a gift of a lifetime because it truly is. When my son, I think he was 10, he was playing football, pee wee football, and one of his teammates, rough and tumble guy, um, he was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. It was
Hmm.
a real shocker for us. And I woke up and I thought, oh my God, that kid is uninsurable. Like, it's going to be really hard for him to buy insurance for his family. I just thought about the insurability of people. So I called up my husband. I said, how much we got on those 520? How much are we putting those 529s again? He tells me, I said, I think I want to stop doing that. And I want to buy whole life policies for the kids because number one, I want to protect their insurability. That's number one. Number two, it's one of the last tax shelters that we have. So I really, I like the fact, I like that tax shelter. That's number two. But I also like that I have the flexibility and optionality to spend the money for whatever I want on them. And then once they turn majority age, it's their policy. So when we bought these policies, we put in a certain amount of money every year. It was, for 10 years and we were done. When my children became of age, I told them about the policies and they were just so grateful and very curious how it worked. So then we had this whole financial discussion about how it worked. And you can take the money out tax free. You can use it for a down payment on a home. You can use it for college education. I have a lot of clients that took out whole life policies on themselves for college education for their kids.
Does it
And I
collect interest or does it just kind of just
so what
stay the same?
happens is there's a cash value that builds up tax free. And you can use those dollars down the road for education purposes, for retirement supplement. You can use it for whatever you want. I have some clients that take out money for, I don't know, because they have a capital call or whatever it is. There's so much flexibility in taking that money out. It's not necessarily just for education purposes.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I liked about it. The other thing I liked about it was it's not tied to any market downturn. So once the cash is in there, once the cash values build up, it's built up and it doesn't go down. So in 2008, when everything was going down, I think I was walking around with my statements. It was the only thing that was up.
Hmm.
It's really an amazing, it's like a Swiss Army knife, right? It just, I would even go further and say that it is the only asset that I know that you can diversify away from market risk, interest rate risk, and inflation risk.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the 529s are bad. I think it's great. And I think that, if you want your equity exposure, et cetera, I think that's fabulous. But if you want some diversification and you want some protection for them in their adult life when they have their own families, these kinds of policies are unbelievable.
That's super interesting. So the whole life insurance, is that like a monthly payment? Is that how that works?
Monthly, annually, however you want to do it, right? So if, you can gift money every year to your children. Having said that, though, if you're going to, very important, if you're going to write a check for education, don't write it to your kid, write it to the institution, because then you don't
Uh,
pay a gift tax on it.
as I said, invaluable information. Just that tip alone could save people God knows how much money. It's unbelievable. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll come.
So for 2024, your annual gift tax limit is 18,000. In
Okay.
2025, it'll be 19. So you can gift between, you and your spouse, you can give the 19 each, right?
Oh
So
wow.
you can, yeah. So you can give $38,000 every year to your children. without paying a gift tax. You can buy them policies and they have it for the rest of their lives. It's really extraordinary, an extraordinary tool.
You probably just blew people away by saying 38 grand a year. People are probably like, I can't even get 38 grand a year or whatever.
You
For
can,
those, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
up to 38
Okay, okay.
per
So
couple.
so
Couple.
anything you can kind of throw in there would just be a benefit. You know, no matter how much money you make or whatever, if you have a kid, it sounds like a really huge benefit for later in life for them.
It's a huge benefit later in life for them. And 38,000 is that is the maximum that a couple can
Hmm.
gift their children without paying a gift tax or
Gotcha.
even to their lifetime exemption.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Amazing information. Maybe we'll get back on the child subject momentarily, but I do want to hit on a subject I really want to dive into.
Mhm.
I'm going to read two bullet points I copied from your bio. I don't like doing this, but I don't want to misspeak. One thing I saw this, and this is when I was like, "Yep, let's have her on." And so it says, "You believe that when money is removed from the equation, people can focus on what truly matters, love and family." I'm already getting that feel. I'm already getting that feel. We're 30 minutes into this. You personally navigated these same financial complexities when caring for her father through his battle with pancreatic cancer. I've had pancreatic cancer in the family with my grandmother.
Mm, I'm sorry.
I get that. I'm sorry for you as well.
It's awful.
That's the worst one. I know it's
It sucks.
freaking terrible.
It's it's awful.
But what I love this about you is that because you faced some of these challenges, you help others overcome these challenges with your unique appreciation for the importance of being supported through these challenging times with grace and dignity. Like I said, this is kind of what separates you from the rest that I'm gathering, which I think is freaking wonderful. And if people aren't already searching you how to work with you already, then shame on them.
Oh, thank you.
um, I don't even know where to start with this because this is something that a lot of people are going to have to deal with. They've dealt with, going to have to deal with, are dealing with. You're going to fall into this at some point in life, most likely. Um, I am fortunate to say that I have both of my parents still with me. Both of them are still pretty decent health, no major issues. But at some point, that might not be the case. I'm not naive. With one of my parents, I'm not entirely sure they're very set up for success when it comes to something like this. So let's start with how do you even approach the conversation with somebody older in your life that perhaps hasn't even really considered this and the burden that they can put on their family? Um, you got to start with the conversation, and you also got to understand like the cost. I don't think people really understand the cost of what it takes to care for somebody that's older that their health is failing. Like people say the word expensive and it just means something different to everybody. I almost kind of want to throw out numbers. So it's just like,
I'll throw a number
wake
out.
up. Yeah,
Me
do it.
too.
Do it. Go ahead.
$850 a day.
850 a day, 365
Yep.
for hopefully many years, right? You're taking care of them so they can live longer,
I
not
am
so.
now currently taking care of, we are currently taking care of my mother-in-law. She has
Oh,
dementia,
oh boy.
and it's a lot. It's a lot. And we bought a long-term care policy for her, but she's actually going to she's outliving it. It's expensive. Now, my dad was another story. You know, he had the pancreatic cancer. And I remember early on, um, he said to me, "You're my long-term care."
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
thought,
Yep. I've had that.
wow, okay. No, I'm not. But
Oh,
yes, I
yep.
am.
Okay. Let's go. What do you
So
got?
what I did was my husband and I purchased a long-term care policy for him.
How costly is something like that? What is that? What's the ballpark? Like, what are we talking here?
It really depends. It depends. It depends what you buy, how old you are, what your health is. It depends.
Okay.
The point of it is something is better than nothing
Mm,
because these a lot of these products that are out there, they have something called a caregiver coordinator. And that person is really important because they help coordinate the care, the medicine, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, the doctor appointments. It's a lot. And it's important to talk to your parents about the fact that the burden is on you. It's not necessarily on them. It's on you because you're going to wind up taking care of them.
Hmm.
Someone's going to wind up taking care of them. And it takes a huge physical, mental, and emotional toll. And the money that comes in to replace the money that you've spent, it takes away that anger.
Mm.
Think about siblings
Resentment too.
and resent. Yes, it takes it away. I mean, someone in the family is going to be being financially responsible. Someone's going to be physically responsible. Someone's going to be emotionally, mentally, all of these things. It- Especially when you have a lot of siblings, right? Like each sibling kind of has a superpower, and you have to figure out what that is. You have to come together to agree, or else it's just really ugly. But the money, it solves a lot of the problems because it makes it easier to take care of somebody. It takes away resentment. It takes away stress. It takes away emotion. It just takes all of that away. Anger.
Mm.
Anger is the worst. And let's face it, when someone is going through that, you're angry already that it's
Right.
happening.
Yeah.
But then throw in money and then the drama and forget it. Forget it. It breaks families up. It's not okay. And policies like long-term care policies, life insurance policies, disability insurance policies, those help. They help because they bring the money exactly when you need it.
So you said you had contributed to and or taken out
Yeah,
a
I took out a
long-term
long-term care
care
policy.
policy. Was this was before he was diagnosed with
Oh
pancreatic
yeah.
cancer, correct?
Yeah, because he would be uninsurable, obviously. But
Right.
we took out life insurance, long-term care. I mean, we had it everything for him because he had, at the end of the day, he had had three of the four horsemen when he died. The
Oof.
horse, the health
Yeah.
horsemen,
Uh,
he had diabetes, heart disease, and cancer.
that's tough.
So it's important to buy the insurance when you're healthy, when you're young, and you don't need it in that
So
moment.
it's this is a conversation I need to have with my mom. So this is like a
Mm,
legit conversation between me and you right now that I think a lot of people are going to connect to because they probably need to know this as well. It's not just bringing it up. I feel fine bringing it up, but it's also like getting to the next step, getting action, because it's suck. Who wants to talk about, hey, when you're dying or when you're sick, we need to do this. Like it's you got to sign a will, right? Now I have a kid, like I have to create a will now
you
at some
do.
point.
You definitely have to have a will.
Right.
Because right now you have the state's will.
I don't think people know that either. People probably think, oh, this is my kid. My stuff will go to my kid.
Nope, not necessarily. And by the way, no one will write a check to a minor.
Uh, Yep. This stuff is just this can be a 10-hour long podcast. There's just so much information to know and to dive into, but I kind of want to go over just like a few steps here. So you had said when your dad was healthy, you took out a long-term care because for the possibility something happened, you wouldn't be burdened with the financial responsibility. So you said 850 a day. Would that be coming from you? Like that comes
Mhm.
from somebody in the, yeah, that comes from you. So it's not, it doesn't come from, so it doesn't come from, let's say, his bank account or his savings, or that comes from you.
Well, the 850 is to care for my mother-in-law. My dad, that was different. He didn't have necessarily this long-term care
Okay.
because he had cancer, he had pancreatic
Gotcha.
cancer. He was diagnosed and then died 3 months later. However, during these 3 months, my family was in Texas. I'm in Connecticut. I spent an enormous amount of money traveling. I spent an enormous amount of money organizing their finances and just I, I was the one handling everything. And I had a little bit of resentment. I did. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely, I was exhausted. I was emotional. I was just upset. My sister and I, my mother, it's a whole thing. And my husband said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about how much money you're spending. We have life insurance on him. We'll get it all back. Don't worry. Don't worry about the money." I thought, "Oh, you're right.
That's a
I don't
relief.
need to worry about the money." And something just changed. It just, I don't know. There was this layer of stress that just stripped away. And I just focused on being with him and caring for him. I didn't care about the money. And I think when people care so much about the money and the stress of it all, it can become really damaging. So yeah, we just concentrated on keeping him comfortable. And when he passed, all the money came in. And the long-term care, by the way, that long-term care policy paid for a lot of his care, a lot. And it was often and around the clock.
Mm.
And it was expensive, but the policy thankfully paid for it. So it didn't come out of my pocket, but a lot of other things did, right? Like long-term care policies are meant to reimburse for that person's long-term care. It's not meant to reimburse for travel or buying, your mother trading in cars or, mowing the lawn and the pool guy. Like none of that matter. Like that's out of the pocket.
Right.
But all of that was reimbursed from the life insurance that came due when he did pass. So I never really worried about taking care of things because I knew that I would get the money back. And that's about being responsible with your planning,
Yeah.
asking those questions. And you touched on something earlier, which was this experience that I've had has given me the permission to be unapologetic about getting in someone's face, about doing what's right. Because at the end of the day, your parents are making this decision for you, not necessarily for them,
Mm.
for you
Right.
and your marriage and your relationships. And that's what that's about.
Yeah.
So the conversation that you can have with your parents, and I don't know your relationship at all, but if it comes from a place of love and it comes from the fact that I want to take care of you. I love you, but I need help doing it. Please help me help you. Right? It's that. And what parent would say no? I mean, maybe they would.
I might find you one.
I, I shouldn't say that. You're right. Maybe some parents would say no because they don't believe in any of this, but it's not about whether they believe in the kind of coverage we're talking about or not. It's about do they believe that they're going to live a long life? If the answer is yes, here's what's interesting. People can lead a long life, but they can also lead a long, healthful life.
Right. Yep.
The longer somebody lives, the longer someone is going to live. And the chances of them becoming fragile, developing some kind of horseman in their old age is very high.
Mm.
So long-term care, when you have the horsemen of dementia and Alzheimer's, that's really hard because it can last. a really long time and deplete people's assets. Total depletion. And but if you have, the other horsemen, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, those things, it's the longer we live, the more chances that we're going to have one of those conditions.
Hmm.
We're going to die from something, right? And the chances of dying from one of those four horsemen are very high as you age. So you want your parents to be around a long time. You want to enjoy them. You want to enjoy a healthful life, a healthful relationship. Why not remove the money? Why not remove that stress? And I think if you approach it in that way, they're doing their children a favor.
Hmm.
That's the way I see it. I don't want my children to ever worry about me, ever. I don't want them to ever be burdened by me. And I honestly don't know one parent besides my dad who said, "You're my long-term care." But I don't know one person that would like want to be a burden on somebody. And
Mm.
that's the interesting part. That's kind of like that's the conflict there because they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be a burden on you. But then again, they're going to be a burden on you because they're not talking about it.
Right, yeah. Hmm.
So I think we have to be buffaloes. We have to head into the storm. Don't be a cow. Don't run away from the storm. Be a buffalo. Head into the storm, face it head on, and don't be afraid.
What what is the ideal situation talking to an older parent who's late 60s? Is it for them to pay
No,
for their long-term life insurance, or is
it
it
depends. It
for
depends.
me?
You have the money. If they have the money, split the cost. Who cares?
Yeah.
Um, but it's important to have. And frankly, the best time to buy long-term care is in your 50s.
Hmm.
In your 50s because it's not that expensive. And listen, the industry has changed. There's a lot of product changing. There's a lot of industry changes, and it's important to speak to an advisor about what products are out there that can fit your family situation, right? You just don't want to Google something and pull something from the sky. You really need to hone in and figure out what can we afford? What do we need? Where are you? Where do you think you're going to retire? Where do you think you're going to grow old? Because my 850 number is because I'm in, Northeast. I, it could be different in North Carolina.
Hmm.
In Texas, it was 250, 275, and that was pre-COVID. So maybe it's 350 now. Um, but yeah, those are the conversations you need to have and have them not combatively, just authentically.
Mm. I'll wait till after the holidays. But
And by the
yeah.
way, Brian, if you want to role play, we can role play.
Oh, I'm going to take you up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Let's freaking role play. I love this is wonderful. Absolutely. Let's
We
do
can
it.
role play the parent conversation
Let's do it.
for
Uh,
sure.
let's do it. Um, or who do you want to be?
You want to role play now?
Yeah. We'll do a quick, we'll do a quick, we'll do a quick role play.
I can be the parent
Okay.
because right, you're role
Yeah.
playing with me, so I'll
Yeah.
be the parent
Okay. Um, all right, Mom. Seriously concerned about the future and the care of, or the cost of care is rather expensive. But keep in mind, I don't necessarily, I think she knows that, but I don't really think she knows that. You know what I mean? Like I said, people know it's expensive. But I don't think they really know, like possibly up to like 850 a day, give or take, right? Um, so yeah, I bring this to her and say, hey, the cost of care, is something we should look at now while everybody's healthy, everybody's happy. Let's take care of this now. Let's look into this now. So, if and when the day comes that care is needed, it's going to be taken care of for all of us. Um, what else would you possibly say to kind of soften that?
Great question, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I would start out by saying how much you love them.
Hmm, yeah,
Start
that'll
with
help.
start with love. Start with love. Start with how you feel about them. Start with your concerns. Um, not you're not concerned about, well, it's difficult. It's so difficult because I don't know the relationship that you have with them.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I will blanket statement this. If you come from a place of love and authenticity and real true honesty about how you feel and how you want to take care of them and make sure they're okay, but more importantly, they need to make sure that you're okay.
Hmm,
They want to make sure you're okay. You're not going to be okay if you're flying everywhere to take care of them, or, stopping your world to take care of, like, if they have to move in with you because you have to take care of, like, these are things that you need to have an open and honest conversation. And when you're in trouble, ask a question.
hmm.
If you find that the conversation is going the wrong way, or if you're just something's just doesn't feel right, just ask a question.
So in the realm of role play, like the issue that I foresee, because I've run into numerous times, is shutdown mode. Um,
What do you
maybe
mean?
you've um, deep, tougher conversations don't tend to go very far. Um, Take care of it later. Um, Not sure how I feel about that. Maybe we can talk about it later. That like
Well,
it's just it goes nowhere.
Mom, Dad, now I'm you. Okay, I'm going to be you. Mom, how would you, how do you feel about me taking care of you if you were in a situation where you needed care?
But so here's the thing is I think they would feel good about it because they did that for their parent even just a few years ago. It was
Ah,
so here's yeah,
that
so
makes me
here
feel.
yeah, okay, so here's kind of like the whole rundown. Like so my grandfather um needed care, I'd probably say for the last couple of years of his life, did not want to go into a home. So they respected his wishes. Well, at least a few of the siblings did, and a few of the siblings did not. So that was an issue right there. So then the burden of caring and financial and aids and all that kind of stuff fell on a few people. And they consistently were over the house helping when the aides couldn't be there. So they were physically bringing him to bed, physically taking care of him all these other different ways. So yeah, there is the possibility that the expectation does fall on myself or my sister because that's what they did. So I think there's some of the friction that might come up in this conversation because I heard the same comment your dad told you. I've heard that.
Then I would do this because they've already been through it. I would start by saying, I want to ask you a question, and I'm just curious, like, what did it feel like caring for your folks? Like, how did that make you feel? Like, what was that like? Ask them
Hmm,
and let them answer. Let them feel it. Let them remember it. Because when they talk about it, they're going to remember it, right?
hmm, hmm,
It's going to bring them back to it. Let them feel that. And then say, would you consider avoiding that same scenario with us?
hmm. And I'm not local. I'm 10 hours away. So I can't literally cannot be there.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Would you consider how that would be for us? Because what you've done is you've made them talk about it. And when they talk about it, there's going to be an emotion that comes up,
Hmm,
and they're going to relive it, and they're going to not want to repeat it.
hmm,
So let them feel that and feel it with them.
hmm.
validate how they feel, and then switch it to how they're going to put that same feeling on you.
This is, I'm just thinking of 100 and almost 180 episodes. This is one of the most like personal, real, authentic. I always have real, authentic, vulnerable conversations, but this is like a deep level with you, and I really appreciate you kind of going there with me. Um, I bet you weren't planning on doing this. So,
I have to be really transparent with you. This is all I do.
mm,
I don't know any other way.
it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank
Because
you.
one of the reasons I made this podcast was to put myself out there and for my audience to go through my journey with me and they can kind of connect with me and relate. And so if I'm not being real and authentic, I think they'll sense that and they're also probably not going to learn as much. So, if I really have like just genuine, real life, authentic conversations with people like this, you never know who's going to listen and learn and apply these same scenarios, situations, and advice to their life, and it's going to help them.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm grateful for it. And I can't tell you how many people I come across that have the exact same concern.
Hmm.
Really. Like I'm talking about it all the time. It is an epidemic in this. It will be an epidemic in this country.
And so many people just don't know. Like I'm admitting, I don't really know a lot of this. And you talk to people that just don't know this. And I would have to imagine a lot, the vast majority of people don't know this.
No, they
And
don't.
it's so important. I want to hit something else real quick in the same ballpark. I was just talking about going into a home. Going into a home is freaking expensive, right? Like it is beyond expensive. And what's the deal? Like my if I brought my wife in, she'd be able to tell you this. What's the deal if you like own a house or property or something like that, but go into a home? Like, isn't there some kind of a connection? Like they will count that as like your income or something like that? Like, doesn't that
Okay.
kind of hurt you? Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
What you're referring to is Medicaid.
Okay.
Medicaid is like the government's form of, it's like long-term care welfare.
Yeah.
You basically have to have no assets.
Yeah.
And there's a look back period. And most of the people that I deal with, they don't qualify for Medicaid.
Okay.
And Medicare is not long-term care. It's the government's health insurance.
Okay.
Okay, so very different. Medicare does not cover long-term care, covers your medical bills. Um, there's some short-term stuff that happens with those policies, but for, in a hospital but it's not long-term care.
Hmm.
And there is no, it's either going to come from your pocket or it's going to come from the insurance company's pocket. You decide. And it's a lot cheaper to have it come from the insurance to transfer that risk onto the insurance company. And by the way, longevity is it's one of the new risks that we have, right? There's market risk, interest rate risk, inflation risk, and longevity risk.
And everyone wants
But
longevity, right? Everyone bring that on,
everybody,
right? Yeah.
everybody wants to live a long, healthful life.
Hmm.
Okay, you're going to live a long, healthful life, but at some point, something like the longer you live, the older you get, the more chances that something is going to happen. It's not if, it's a matter of when.
Hmm.
It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And so it's important to look at the products that are out there that can fit within your budget and overall planning so that you have something in place for your children. So you don't be the burden to your children. And at the end of the day, your parents don't want to be a burden to you. Nobody wants to be a burden,
Hmm.
but who's going to take care of them?
I want to hit on something too, because I'm thinking, yeah, this is the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. There's a lot of information in this episode that people can take and help with their lives. I really want to focus. real quickly too, and how you said you were able to just be there with your dad the last few months and not worry about money. You can't ever get that time back. You
Yeah,
were present with your father for those last few months, and I bet you're more thankful for that than almost anything in your life. Like the fact that you're able to
you're
do
right.
that.
You're right. I am. I really am. And in a way, it's interesting because I'd go there and I'd cook him meals and I'd, tickle his back and I'd help him and I would, we'd listen to Pink Floyd together and we'd watch football together. And that time with him, I will never, ever, ever forget. And it was cherished and it was short and it was sweet and it was wonderful and it was memorable. And I'm so grateful that I had it. I want to clarify something because you said something about being in a nursing home or
Hmm.
in an institution. Most people don't go into an institution. Most people have their care at home,
I can
right?
understand that. I can see that.
Most people do. Um, so it's important to understand that. Like, if we didn't have a long-term care policy for my mother-in-law and we didn't have the means to provide for her, she would have to move in with us. I'd have to take care of her. And I'm not gonna lie, my husband and I would probably be divorced. It is it is, and that's a horrible thing to say, I know,
No, I
but
get it. It's a ripple effect. Like you said, burden. It's not just a burden on like the child. It's a serious ripple effect in their life because it affects everything in that household. Probably not just their household, their work too. Like I can't imagine having to take care of a kid, having or having to take care of kids, having to take care of a parent, and also being successful in a job and a career to make ends meet at the same time. Like that's a lot.
if you see a train wreck, y- you gotta fix it. You gotta get out of the way, right?
Mm,
If you're watching a train wreck happen, like and you have the ability to change that, wouldn't you?
I can't imagine the problem then becomes guilt, right? It's almost kind of like if someone asks, "Hey, will you take care of me? Can I move in with you?" Blah blah blah, and then like you say no. How do you say no?
You don't.
Like,
You don't. And
right?
that's the problem.
Yeah,
And by the way, even if someone had to move in with you and you were able to afford 24/7 care so that you could have your life, that 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 in and of itself is worth paying for a policy, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, but people don't know about these things and they just kind of worry and don't talk about it.
And they
And
don't
then
do
time
anything, and a
goes
year
by.
goes by. Yep,
Yep. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. And then people become sick, and then you can't fix the problem because it's too late.
yep.
It's not okay. It's not okay. And I think that it's really important to be upfront, honest, authentic right from the get-go with everything and everyone. What are they going to do? Fault you for caring?
Mm.
I think if you come from that place, no one will fault you. It's called responsibility.
You're the best. This is awesome.
I'm glad. I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
helping you.
Oh yeah. I hope
I
hoping
can
out
see
just
the
helping
look on your
me.
face.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so freaking relatable. Like I said, I'm just gonna be honest here. I'm just gonna have like spit the truth. And like I said, when this invite kind of came through, and when I heard about like what you do, and I read about you, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a good time for this one."
Oh, that's so
So
cool. That's so cool.
good timing for sure. And I'm sure, like I said, you're either in it, you've been in it, or you're gonna be in it. So it's probably good timing for everybody to listen to this conversation and just to I don't know. I don't think the point of this podcast is to inform everybody of like, here's step one, here's step two, here's step three, right? Everybody's journey is different, but it's just to open your eyes and start having the conversation, do your research, even reach out to you. I know in past conversations I've listened, you're like, hey, just contact me, right? Does that still go? Can people just reach out to you and follow you? Is
Yes.
that cool?
And people have,
How
and
can
they
we do that?
become very good clients. Just email me, a large at Lenox, Lenox Advisors, ADVISORS.com. A large at LenoxAdvisors.com. Email me, I'll get right back to you. I mean, it's not that difficult.
I'm going to email you.
If you don't, I would expect you to.
Yeah, I
I want
mean,
you to.
yeah, there's a very high probability of that happening. It's almost one of those things.
I don't
Stay
think
on the
there's an
line.
option. There's no option.
No, there's no option.
There's no option.
After I hit the record button, stay on the line. You're not going anywhere. Um, but Abby, I just want to say, thanks for this. Like I said, we could be on this for hours and hours and hours. And I know people might be listening to this like, oh, ask her about this, ask this. I didn't want to know about this and stuff like that. Maybe come back on. That'd be awesome. But at the same time,
I'm
it's
happy
like,
to.
gotta do your own research, people. Like, I really just kind of wanted to open the door and introduce everybody to you, what you do, why you do it, and how important this is. Um, this is, I mean, it's this conversation is not leaving my mind anytime soon. That's how important it is. It's kind of heavy. I get it. It's heavy, but it's one of those things you have to get through. Um,
It's interesting you said heavy. It may feel really heavy, but then once you start going, it it it's kind of like the feeling of anxiety, right? When you feel anxious about something, it's because you think you have to do something, but you're not sure what it is.
hmm
That's anxiety. And then how do you get rid of that? You start moving,
hmm
start attacking whatever it is that you think you need to do. Same thing.
mm,
Just start moving. The fact that you reached out to me, we're having this discussion, that in and of itself, I mean, that is the biggest hurdle right there.
mm,
Just moving. Um, and finding that right person to make sure that they understand what your family situation is and helping you reach those personal goals that you have. That is so important.
mm.
You can't just, you need to find someone that's listening.
Yeah,
Listening, not just talking to you, like really listening to what's important and then solving those problems. And that's what I do. And and I can't, and I do have a lot of people that have called in and I've helped tremendously around the country. And, um, and I love it because it's like, okay, down, one person down, good,
yeah.
complete, done, done. And if I can do that, and at the end of the day, look, my clients 30 years from now, you know who's going to be grateful for my planning that I did with my clients?
Their kids, their
That's
kids.
exactly right. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. And they don't know who I am.
yeah.
But guess what? I help them.
And not only
Yeah.
that, you also probably taught them, right? Because they saw firsthand what your help did for them. So then they do the same. So it's not just you working one on one with a client, it's like a trickle down effect. Like they tell so and so, and they tell so and so, and they all see it. And so hopefully podcasts like this actually expedite that process a little bit too.
Yeah. I'm very grateful for you for inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I am more than happy to help you. I mean, I really, really enjoy helping people that want to be responsible and for their own families
right.
and and not rely on government entitlement programs and their friend. I mean, it kills me when I see a GoFundMe page. It kills me. No pun
hmm
intended, but it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
It upsets me. It's like, oh man, they didn't plan.
All right, Abby. I think we can wrap it up right here. I'm very happy to hear that you'll be happy to come back on a second time.
Absolutely. I
Like I
enjoyed
said,
our
this,
conversation a lot.
thank you. I did too. And this, like I said, the information that you have and that you're willing to share, invaluable. It's one of those things where it's like what we were talking about with my son earlier. If I just make a tweak or a change or I start investing in something now in 20 years could be the biggest change I've ever
Oh
made
my
in my
God.
life.
Game changer.
Yeah,
Game changer. And
from a small tweak.
yep. And you do need your wills, healthcare
Yes,
proxies, power of attorneys. You need a lot, all of that stuff.
we'll
And,
definitely do
and I
that.
and I do I refer attorneys, I refer CPAs. I mean, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, but I work with them all the time, and I can refer you to someone. And by the way, I interview the attorneys and CPAs that I know for my clients because I think business is done when there's timing and chemistry.
Mm,
Timing's right, but the chemistry has to be there too. It's very, very important for me to put people together that have that chemistry, that have a good working relationship. So I like to get to know my clients a lot and before I refer them other professionals because I think it's really important to have that connection, you know?
mm, mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm
Personal
excited.
touch. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Well, Abby,
Yeah.
come back on anytime you want. We will be talking very soon. Promise
Awesome.
you that. Have an amazing holiday. And yeah,
You
we'll talk
too.
soon.